Welcome to episode 96. Gosh, we're getting so close to that 100th episode mark, and I've been thinking about what am I going to do leading up to that, and just kind of thinking about areas we haven't been on the show before. And I think that everybody by now who's been with the podcast for at least the last year knows a bit about my journey, knows about my appearances on other podcasts, and the ground that we haven't covered in detail, in as much detail as we're going to go in today, is addiction, recovery, and sobriety. And so I've got my new friend Mark Chop Stancil on the episode today. Chop, welcome to the show, man. So glad to have you, brother.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here, and hopefully this can help somebody out.
Absolutely. So I'll kind of start with how I met you, and then you can kind of tell us about yourself. And I know we're going to go into deep waters today, brother. But I first found out about you through Gabriel Garcia. You were on To Bring About podcast, and when I started going down the road of who Chop is, what Chop's about, I think you had just started Holy Roller, which is a Christian grappling clothing company that you launched. And then I noticed that you were in real estate. You were a firefighter. You're coaching kids wrestling. You're a coach. You're doing the kids classes at Pirata Jiu Jitsu. And so we know how small of a world it is. Eventually, come to find out, I'd have somebody from Fort Osage schools on the show, and you graduated from Fort Osage High School. So the world just is so big but so small. And then as you and I interacted online, I think it was when you launched Sober Gang, where I was like, oh yeah, let's go. There's not too many outlets for this. I'm sober. I'm all about it. And we need more of that in the world. And I noticed that once you launched that too, a couple of my buddies have tagged along, gotten into it, guys who are sober, guys who are living that lifestyle. And so, man, brother, I'm so glad to make this connection. And I think it's just important for you to take the floor and kind of tell everybody about who you are, and then we can start talking about addiction recovery and sobriety, and all those things. So whatever flow we take today, man. But
Yep.
I'm stoked to have it.
Yeah, so I'm Chop. Everybody calls me Chop. Now I haven't gone by Mark since I was a little kid, so nobody calls me that. They called me Pork Chop growing up. So then I guess as I got older, they thought that Chop was the more professional version of that, I guess. So, but yeah,
It does have a pretty professional vibe to it. It's
yeah.
Chop, just really,
Yep. And
I
then,
love it.
so I'm married to my wife. We were dating in high school. So we've been together, God, almost 20 years, 19 years now. And then we got married 14 years ago, actually. 14 years we've been married. So, and then we got two kids. I got a 10-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. And, yeah, I love coaching them in jujitsu and wrestling and that's basically me in a nutshell. I mean, I've done jujitsu for 20 years now. 2006 I started doing jujitsu,
Wow.
so been training for a long time. Army veteran, and yeah, I grew up. I had a broken childhood growing up, but I've kind of rose from the ashes and made something out of my life, and so here we are today.
Absolutely, man. So, I know every addiction story has its origins. Can you kind of dive into that, like why you went to, the addiction and what was involved, and then what that was like as you were growing up? And I know you have a really powerful kind of conversion story too, right? Where you made a decision, but um, you know, if you could speak on that, I'd really appreciate that. Just kind of hearing that.
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up on the northeast side of Kansas City, kind of rough area. It's got, a history of, criminal activity, lots of poverty, things like that. My parents were both addicts when I was born. And since have definitely, my dad especially has definitely changed his life. He's sober now and things like that. He came out of heroin addiction and it's good to see that he is on the right path now as well. But that was like growing up around all my family, that was like the standard. You didn't really know anything else. So when I was about 11 years old, I always hung out with my older cousins, older kids in the neighborhood, things like that. Well, they were all drinking already, and and smoking weed and stuff. So that's when I started drinking and smoking weed, was 11 years old, which I think about it, like my daughter's 10 and she's like so sheltered and doesn't know anything about that stuff. Which is great because that means I've provided a better life for her. But like I was like in the streets, running around, doing those things. So at 11 years old, that's when I started drinking, smoking weed, like I said. And then at 14 years old is when I tried meth for the first time. And I thought it was innocent. When you're young and you're partying, you think like it's not ever going to catch up to you, or it's just innocent. You're just having fun. So my buddy who I had grown up with, he had started using meth, and he was like, "Oh, just if you just try it once, you'll be fine. You don't need to keep doing it." And once was all I needed. That was it. Because I have the kind of personality where I can't do anything in moderation. So like it's
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 for
it's either
cowards,
all or
right?
yeah, it's all or nothing with me. So I went through years of being on meth. I finally got off of that at like probably 17 years old, but it wasn't like I was like, "Oh, I'm done." It's like, no, I still was like taking a bunch of pills, smoking weed, drinking like crazy. So, it still was like a destructive path, but I thought that I was doing better because I wasn't using that.
Yeah. It's so wild to me, because, you know, I grew up in a pretty rough environment, and I knew guys, that it was like in the 90s, it was the skater crowd, right? Like a lot of the
Mhm.
skaters, were into, obviously weed was like the thing that everybody did. And then you always knew who was doing the hardcore drugs because, they wore it on their face, or it was in their posture, or, it showed up in other ways. And so the access to those things was like, sadly, it was so easy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Growing up in Southern California, and then I think, what happens in that cycle, especially when, the parents, they're setting the tone, and this is why your daughter doesn't know anything about that stuff, right? It's because of the tone that you and Brittany have set in your household. And so often my wife and I, when we're having conversations with our daughters, when we talk about their behavior and stuff, I say, this family, this is what we do. This is what we do because we follow Jesus, or these are things we don't do. So if you see kids doing this in public, know that you don't have to participate in those things. But when I was growing up, and it sounds like this was absolutely your world in a way as well, right? Is like everybody's doing it. Like if you don't do it, you're an outcast, or if you don't do it, like you're a teacher's pet. I can remember now as you're talking about that, I can remember all those things being so clear. And so I am curious, like, when you said you stopped meth at 17, like what was one of those factors that just got you to quit?
So at that point, my cousin, who he was my cousin, so his uncle on his dad's side, I was related to him on his mom's side. His uncle on his dad's side had OD'd, and so that was like the first one. And then I had another friend, the friend that actually introduced me to it, that I started using with. Um, he went to prison for like, I don't know, like 5, 6 years. Like, I mean, I was like, so I'm like in my head, like, I don't want that to happen to me. You know what I mean? And I was always kind of scared of stuff too. So like I went and used a bunch of drugs, right? I was not like scared to try everything. But then like when something scary happened, sometimes I'd be like, "Oh, like I never tried hallucinogenics. I never did like acid because I had heard a story about somebody I knew that had to be checked into a mental hospital because they got too messed up on LSD and was like going crazy. So like that was something that always stuck with me. Like I never tried it. So it kind of like was kind of like a fear factor thing that was like, all right, I'm done with that, which is crazy because grown now that I'm older, it's like I've seen. Listen, I'm not saying it's better or worse, but I've seen alcohol ruin way more lives than I've seen meth ruin. Like mostly because it's so accepted.
80, I saw the numbers yesterday, 80 billion deaths last year,
Yeah, it's crazy.
alcohol and incidents related. It is, along with caffeine, the most unregulated substance in the world. And it is
Yep.
literally encouraged, right? So, yeah, no, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow there, but yes, alcohol, yes,
Yeah. No, that's
absolutely, brother.
that's what
Yeah.
I've always said that it's like I'll have the argument with people that are that are alcoholics or drinking all the time, and I'm like, this is literally just like if I was using heroin, you would try to say that something was wrong with me while you were an alcoholic, and I'm like, but literally, alcohol is like it. I'm so passionate about this, and I get it's not the popular opinion. You know this. It's like I'm so passionate
You're
about
you're in the
alcohol being
right place,
so
brother.
bad. I don't think anyone should drink any alcohol at all. I just don't think you should. It's just not, there's not a net positive about alcohol consumption.
You know what? And I'm gonna double down on that too. And I know that I have a lot of friends who drink, and I know of the nine regular dudes who text me about the episode, and I know will listen to this episode today when it drops. It's going to drop in a couple hours here, bro. I say this with all the grace and understanding in my heart, but I completely agree with you. And I know we'll get to recovery. So there's some thoughts that we'll talk about maintaining sobriety in a world that is obsessed with alcohol.
Right.
But I agree with you, and I'll double down with you on this. I will say that most people. So, and again, I'm going to save part of this for the recovery portion of this conversation. But I know that this has happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you. But when you share that you have been 16 years sober from alcohol,
16.
right?
Yep. 16 from everything. Yep.
16, brother. Congratulations, dude. And I've been 9 years. And I know what happens when you know that there's a tack that comes with being sober and saying it in certain social settings. And the comment that comes that says, what, you couldn't handle it? And I think so often that when that is said to me, slurred, cross-eyed, kind of wobbly, I want to say, it looks like you can't handle it either, but I
100%.
don't, right?
Yep.
I I have grabbed the NA beer so that I can fit in to some extent when I go to the concert venues to go see a metal band or whatever. I'm like, hey, get me that athletic NA beer or whatever, because there's something to that. And I know there's some people who are sober, they don't even want to have anything to do with that too. But like, I'm bringing awareness for what it's like to live in society with a sober mind. I think of the Bible verse, beware of your enemy. He prowls around like a lion, be sober minded, right? Literally says that in the scripture. And, I so often, brother, I go to that and I say, there are so many functioning alcoholics in our society. And I'm trying with all my effort to say that in love because I get it.
Yeah.
I completely get it. But I'm with you, bro. Like it's a line in the sand. And I love too how I'm talking to a brother right now. Like I see you, dude, like this moderation thing. I thought about the quote, what I was trying to quote earlier when I was talking about being moderation is for cowards, because there's that line, I think it's from a Navy SEAL movie, and they say anything
Yeah.
worth doing is worth overdoing because moderation is for
Yeah.
cowards.
Yeah. From Lone
And
Survivor.
so that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so, and I've taken that approach to my sobriety now. I'm like, well, anything worth doing, sobriety, is worth
Right.
overdoing. So I'm not just going to be sober from alcohol. I'm going to be sober from all these other things. But yeah, dude, on the alcohol subject, it's super pervasive. And I know that in this conversation, we're not going to solve that problem, but hopefully
Right.
we can inspire somebody, because
Yeah.
somebody's going to listen to this is going, man, this is a message that I needed to hear,
For
you
sure.
know?
Totally.
So yeah. So what did recovery look like, man? I mean, when you decided like, I want to be free from all of this, what was that moment, or what were some of those decisions that you made, and how did you come to those and start really solidifying your sobriety, man?
Yeah, so this is a really cool story, and it's really not like the common thing that happens, right? It just isn't. So my dad had gotten sober, gotten back into the church. My grandpa is a pastor. I have two uncles that are pastors, so like that's like it's a theme in my family. So my dad had gotten back into the church, and I went to church off and on as a kid with my grandmother and stuff because we were really poor. So I lived back and forth with my grandma. We'd lose a house. We'd get evicted. I'd move in with my grandma. Well, she bought me this Bible when I was 10 years old, 1998. So I was 10 years old. She bought me this Bible that I still have to this day. It's in the shelf in there. I should have brought it out, but I still have it on my shelf today.
You.
Because, um, it was such a pivotal thing in my journey. So, so I joined the Army National Guard and I did that for 6 years. The first few years, I started gaming the system. I started trying to search out like what drugs could get out of my system the fastest. And then, so I would have to go to
while
drill
you're
like,
serving.
right. I'd have to go to drill like once a month. Right. So if I get out of drill and I could just do a bunch of like, I was using cocaine at the time, right? Like, cause I heard, and I don't even know if this is accurate, heard it gets out of your system quickly, right? So I'd use it and then I'd use it and I'd go clean until drill and then I'd do it again. Well, on top of that, I was drinking every day, like every single day I was drinking. So that didn't matter. So in 2010, I'm trying to get the timeline right because it was a long time ago. 2010, we deployed to Africa. So I went to Africa for a year, and I'm still drinking. And not the good thing, the crazy thing about that deployment is like, since it wasn't necessarily a combat zone, we had a bar there and we could drink. So I was getting hammered over there. I mean, I'm like every night after our shift, I'm just, we're going up and we're getting hammered. And then when I came home, so halfway in between my deployment, we got to come home for 2 weeks, and I came home and I was drinking every single day. I even did a jiu-jitsu tournament while I was home, and I was still drunk from the night before in this tournament.
My gosh.
Yeah. I mean,
How did that go?
I actually took first place, but
That's hilarious, dude.
It was submission only, and I submitted everyone. So, but that's like how bad it was. I mean, I would just drink. I mean, I would drink till 3-4 o'clock in the morning and then still be drunk when I woke up. And, but then the day before I left to go back to Africa, my dad was like, cause my dad had gotten sober and he was back in church. He was like, "Hey, take your Bible with you." And it was the one that my grandma got me when I was 10 years old. Right. I'm like, "Okay, I'll take my Bible with me. No big deal." I really just took it because I didn't want to hear him lecture me. I had no intention of looking at this Bible. But I don't know how much you've traveled internationally, but I had like two
Couple
15-hour flights and then a 12-hour flight.
Yeah.
And then, so I was literally on the airplane. I was just so bored that I pulled this Bible out of my backpack and I read through the Gospels. And then I gave my life to Jesus on this plane, literally by myself, no altar call, nobody like sitting there laying hands on me, none of that. I gave my life to Jesus on this plane, and I've never touched a drug or alcohol since.
That is incredible, dude. What in the Word stood out to you? When you're reading the Gospels, what were you feeling, man? Like, I think it's so important that people know when they read their Bible, like it's the living word, right?
Right.
We don't call it the word for nothing, right? It stood the test of time. What were you feeling, man, when you're on that plane? It kind of getting to that point where your heart was turning towards Jesus.
Well, I know like one of the big things for me was like really seeing that Jesus was in the trenches, seeing people where they're at. That was a huge thing right there, you know? And then the second thing was, when you read about Jesus's death, I mean, the Passion of the Christ doesn't even do it justice. And it's gruesome. Like what he endured, which historically it's almost impossible to disprove that the crucifixion actually happened, right? So whether people think that he
Absolutely.
was the Messiah or not, I mean, the fact that he was willing to go to those depths is crazy because really he was guilty of no crime except for a religious crime, right? So the fact that he was willing to endure that for us, and when you look, and I did this when I gave my life to Jesus, I was still deployed, right? I had 6 more months. I had a lot of free time. I started studying all these world religions because I was like, if I'm going to commit myself to something, I have to know that something else isn't what is true. Right. And then there's no other religion where you're like, hey, they paid the price for me. Like they paid the price for how messed up I am. No other religion does that. And so that was really like like Jesus really died for me. And that is so powerful when you really think about that. And that is the main thing that was like, yeah, dude, you have to live for God.
Absolutely, man. I love too in the Gospels how there's just records of him. When you say in the trenches, he's going to the undesirables, the outcasts. Um, and that is something that I think I've felt as, a rebel who's been discounted, outcast, bullied when I was a kid. I know you've got some bullying stories too. I kind of cheated and listened to the
Yeah.
to bring about episode 2, right? But like that feeling of like, he would have walked up to me when no one wanted to talk to me. He would have told me, it was going to be okay. In some of the deep healing work that I've done in my past too, I've gone back to with, um, you know, spiritual counselors to look at the moments in my life when I was hurt and where Jesus was in those moments and what he would have done if I would have felt his presence. And I came to the Lord in 16, and it was going to a Christian metal concert. And I was
Yeah.
like, I can't believe there's Christians that can play this type of music. And the band was
Right.
Living Sacrifice that brought me
Mm.
to Christ, oddly enough. Right.
Yeah.
And, I just, I think it's, again, too, to go back to the fact of his crucifixion, like, even in the Gospels, this is a fact. These things happen. People witness these things that happen. And, it's very supernatural, but it's so real as well. And I feel like that's a reality I want to ground myself in. So when you came back from that flight, what'd you do when you walked by the bar, man? I got to know what, like, cause we know too that like the enemy will test us, right? And so you're, faced with these things, your habits.
Mm.
What was that like, man?
Yeah, for me, and I'm gonna just say it, and I'm not, and people might think it's woo and stuff, but like I do believe in like supernatural strength was given to me, to try to stay clean. Because I mean, when you just quit something cold turkey, like that's not the common thing. Like a lot of people need to go through programs and stuff, and
Absolutely.
I'm not knocking that at all. I'm just saying for me, like that wasn't my story. But I will say, and this is key, and I say this to everyone that I know that's going through trying to change their life, and I don't care if it's from getting sober, trying to get out of like the street life, anything like that. You have to change your associations, and you don't have to change them forever, right? Because I just like we were talking about, Jesus was in the trenches, right? But like I wasn't strong enough yet to be around the same people, around the same influence, and not do the same things that I was doing before. And that's like the main key that I can give somebody is like, don't be around people that are encouraging you to do the things that you're trying to get free from.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think too, with that, like when you make that hardcore of a decision that you're going to follow Jesus, right, in a plane flight, um, it becomes so clear. Your vision gets corrected, right? Like what you see when you look at a bottle of booze or, cocaine or whatever is you have a completely different context. And that's why I think some people struggle with believing stories like yours because they hear about, the 12-step programs, right? And like the first step in Alcoholics Anonymous, it's admitting that we're powerless, right? There's all these steps, and there's so much value in that. I mean, there's a reason so many people are posting pictures of their coins on
Yeah.
Facebook saying, 10 years sober, 20 years sober, all that stuff. That is another mechanism the Lord can use to get people free. Sometimes it's just your vision changes, dude. Like when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, like it's and anybody who hasn't experienced what you did, they should not feel like they're missing out or guilty or whatever. It's
Right.
a journey, right? Like recovery is a journey. And that's not to say that God's going to just fix certain problems. I mean, we pray to him. We want him to take away some of these things we struggle with. But when you have new vision, when you have the scales are taken off your eyes, you see things in a new light, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, as you were, getting free, obviously you're still serving in the military. What were your conversations like with the people? You talk about the associations, like you got to change your associations with the substance, with the
Right.
people. What was that like? What did you tell your buddies, when they wondered why you weren't participating?
Yeah, I mean, I basically told him, and I was straight up honest and forthright, like, hey man, I'm serving God now, like this is it. And the hard thing too is like I stopped cussing, right? Like that was a big deal. I don't cuss now. I stopped cussing then. Like I don't, but like man, that was when you're in the army, you're around a bunch of guys, like the F word's a comma. I mean, it's like it's just you use it multiple times in a sentence. It's not like it's
Yeah.
so they were and I got made fun of for like not
Hmm.
cussing, not drinking, all these things. I mean, they roasted me, but I was just blunt about it. I'm like, whatever. Like, I mean, I've been getting picked on my whole life. Like, you can sit here and you can say whatever you want. And to
Yeah.
me, when you grow up poor, roasting each other is an Olympic sport. You know what I mean? So I don't need,
It totally is.
like,
Yo
like you
mama
can make
jokes,
fun of me.
bro. I know every yo
Yeah.
mama joke. Yeah.
Yeah, you can make fun of me all you want, but that's what it was, man. I just let them know, hey, man, I'm serving God now, And I had some actually really deep conversations with some because we're all away from our families, like we're thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
There was guys getting divorced while we were there and things like that, and you get to have some really deep conversations, especially when you open up and you talk to people about like what you're going through. It just opens the door to have those conversations with other people.
Absolutely, man. So, you started Sober Gang, and the for people that know, I mean, we're going to drop your socials in this episode too. I'd encourage everybody. I mean, even if you're not sober, follow the account. It's inspirational, right? Like, but you started it so you can continue to have these conversations. Um, what has it been like? Because I love like the reels where you've basically told your story and you're using
Yeah,
these social media posts as a way to give people an insight into what you've done, what's worked for you, and what we're doing as a sober gang community together. But why did you formulate that? What motivated you to do that? I mean, because you're on 16 years and you just started the account 3 months ago, right? So
yeah.
what's the genesis of that?
I'll tell you, it took me a long time. I had this really bad view about talking to people about addiction and stuff for a long time. Because I quit everything cold turkey. So I had a long time where I was just quit. Like I would just tell people that, like just stop doing what you're doing. And it took me a lot of maturity and growing up to realize that that's just not everybody's story. That's not their ability to just do that. You know what I mean? So I finally got to a place where I was like, I can really start talking about this, sharing my story. And also, it just was on my heart at the time. It was like, there's lots of people out here that are struggling. And people in my family, people in my wife's family that are just like, they're just stuck in a cycle of addiction. They think that's the only way to have fun. That's the only path, for life is to drink and that it's normal or do drugs or any of that stuff. And it really like was weighing on my heart. And just one day I just was like, I'm just going to go just start this page and start telling my story and see where that goes.
Yeah, I love your reminders that you've posted about winning the weekend. Just 2 days for 2 days. Win it. Discipline wins was your one from yesterday. Um, I feel obviously like your message in Sober Gang is well received with me because, I'm sober. I do jujitsu. I'm constantly trying to challenge myself. I've always been that way too. I've always been that person that doesn't want to take a binary thought view. I want to take the third path. And I feel like getting to know Jesus has been really inspirational in that way too, because every time he was cornered by the Pharisees or people in society, he was always like dropping that third path, that wisdom bomb to get them to think, and I think, obviously it's really resonating. And I really appreciate you talking about that maturity too, because something that I've struggled with in being sober, especially in my first year, was it went to a superiority complex.
Yeah.
And, and you start to really, I caught myself saying things like, I'm above the influence, you know?
Mm,
And when you say that to a person who drinks, it makes you sound like you think you're better than them.
right.
Like you literally are, at a higher level of consciousness than they are when, obviously I have all kinds of struggles. I have all
Right.
kinds of things that the Lord is still working on and still revealing to me, and using jujitsu as a way to reveal all those weaknesses, and using jujitsu as a way to make me receptive to feedback. Cause like, God knows I loved giving advice.
Right.
I hated receiving it,
Yeah.
but that maturity to get to that point, man, I feel like that also then like leads to having grace and compassion, uh,
100%.
and, and I think that's important. So when you met Brittany, you said you're going on what, 21 years of
19
knowing each
years,
other?
19 years we've been together. Yep.
19 years, man. So, how, what was her response when you decided to make this decision? Was she already following Jesus? I mean, what was your relationship like when you made that decision?
Yeah, so she wasn't like nobody in her family is in the church at all. And
Okay.
she but she's also never been like on the deep end. She used to drink a little bit. She was never like crazy, but she would drink a little bit. But she was just like she was a good kid, you know what I mean? And she found this wild freaking, you know, guy from the because we moved out here when I was a junior in high school. We got a Section 8 voucher and was able to move out here into some uh, uh, low income housing, and so that's how I met my wife. And I don't know how it worked out, to be honest with you, but it worked out. So I think that it was a shocker for her when I gave my life to Christ because I was not here, and we weren't even married yet.
Right.
She was just holding it down for me while I was deployed, and and so it was a shocker to her, but I also think it was a relief because I was a wild guy. I was a crazy guy. It was like, and I think it took her, man, I don't think that she like fully surrendered to like Jesus until I got home and we started attending the church that we go to now. And then she kind of did. And now, and I know lots of people have their views on women being in ministry, but she's now our children's pastor of our church. So like, it's really changed
Beautiful.
her whole life around and the trajectory of our kids' lives. So
That's so beautiful, man. I wanted to make sure we talked about the dynamic in the relationship, because sometimes, man, I mean, we know this, like, you have to be, you have to have that agreement as a team to, we're going to do this and we're going to do it together. And so, Stephanie, my wife, I mean, she knows like we don't have alcohol in the house, and we've supported each other like through our meal planning and our, the food we eat in the house, and, all those things. And it's so important to have that support on a team. I've also, oddly enough, I've met people who, they decide to go sober, their spouse doesn't, and somehow it works too. So
yeah,
it doesn't look the same for everybody.
right.
But it's I got the sense too, like when I heard part of your story too, I was thinking, oh, it sounds like he married up just like I did.
100%.
you
100%.
know, I don't know. I don't know how my wife continued to choose me,
Yeah.
especially through my addiction. And I've asked her, I've said, why? And she said, because I followed God's heart, and I've heard that statement like, fellows, if you want a good marriage, find a woman who loves God more than she loves you. And
Right.
things like that. But whatever it is, I mean, she has chosen me. And I think they too, they see all the good in us, man. Like,
Uh-huh.
and with wild people, people that are really intense, really like that, no moderation, there's no moderation switch. I
Yep.
think there's a lot more to love in people like that. And, you know, our ladies see our potential,
Right.
and there's got to be something, but it's up to us to live up to that and decide
Yep.
we're gonna lead in that manner. Staying sober, man, and the calling that you're in now, where you're creating this community. Hopefully, there's been some conversations that have come out of it. Have you seen anybody contact you one to one,
Yeah, I
or
actually
seen
do.
any
Yeah.
any fruits from that?
Yeah, I've had a few people reach out to me actually, and message me, and I'm still trying to grow the page over there. I get more views because I have it linked to my Facebook. I get more views on my Facebook than I do on my Instagram page, but I don't really care. Like, I
Okay,
don't care
noted.
about growing the page for like any kind of ego's sake. I just want more people to see the message, you know. So, but yeah, I've had a few people reach out to me and like, hey man, I'm sober too. I think this is awesome what you're doing. And I haven't really had a bunch of people reach out to me like looking to get sober. I'm hoping that that becomes a thing, but also I'll open that up. Like, if that's you, don't be ashamed to reach out. You know, this is a hard thing to do by
Absolutely.
yourself. So if you see this or you see any of my posts, don't be ashamed to reach out and kind of ask for any kind of like practical guidance on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just to offer that reinforcement too. Um, I have never judged. I can say this with confidence. I can actually claim this on a recording. I have the first thing that I've told everybody who's ever reached out to me who's living with addiction is thank you so much for telling me. And that that is that is what you're going to hear if you contact Chop. That is what you're going to hear if you contact, anybody who's maintained sobriety for a long enough time, because we get it. We don't lose recollection of what it was like to live under the chains of addiction, right? And I I I just want I want to reinforce that with you, dude. It's not like I need to add to anything you're saying, but I really I really love those opportunities. And not every conversation that I've had with people like that has ended up with them being sober. And in fact, there's a couple situations where I think folks doubled down on addiction and I never heard from them again. But
Right.
the fact that I got to be a part of that conversation, that's not lost on me. Um, as the page grows or as you get more people involved, I mean, how can people support what's going on with Sober Game? What's if you have it? I know you just started it, but what's the next year look like? What's the 2 year? Do you
So
have dreams of what you would want it to become? Yeah,
yeah, so now right now I've started and it's very preliminary but I've started tossing around the idea of writing a book. I just don't I'm navigating how to do that and the best way to get that to people because I would like it to be accessible to people. I don't want people to have to like pay for it or go find it or something like that. So I am actually working on like getting all of my thoughts together and gathering the timeline and trying to put that together and maybe and writing a book about that. And from there, I don't know. I mean, right now it's so new. But I would like to try to, explore other avenues. If I could do this as a career, and not like run the social media page, but if I could do helping people through addiction as a career, I would love that. I don't know what that looks like. I've been, navigating those things as well, but, I don't know if you noticed, I when I was a firefighter, I lost that job due to some health complications. Um, and so since that was
I didn't
last
know
year.
that. No,
Yeah, that
I
was
apologize.
last year. I got diagnosed with a lung condition. But since then it's been very hard for me to find purposeful work. You know what I mean? So that is something that I've been navigating, trying
Mm,
to figure out how can I find a way to help people still and make that what I do every day. And there's nothing against having like a regular job. I have a regular job right now, outside of real estate. And but it just doesn't it's not what I feel like my purpose is. It's not anything that like affects somebody's life directly on a daily basis. And that's really what I would like to do is how can I and that's what I had at the fire department. I could see interventions that I did immediately work. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm headed with that. Who knows what that looks like? I don't know, but I'm trying to reinvent myself at 38 years old and figure out where I'm going with that.
absolutely, man. Yeah, I think there. I've been in a similar stage in that I have a full time role that I'm content with, right? And I see a future there. And there is also a longing to do something where, you know, I can feel it's not that I don't have purpose where I work now. I feel a strong purpose and wherever I go, there I am, right? And I took that approach a long time ago. Like there's opportunities to do God's work everywhere. Um, but I definitely understand when something happens that's so profound in your life that you want to help other people experience that. So,
Yeah.
um, that's something that I'll definitely be supporting you in, man. And I think, praying for the workers, praying for, the harvest is plenty, the workers are few, but, finding your people, I feel like Sober Gang is a great vehicle, for doing that.
Yeah.
Um, as far as jujitsu goes too, like, you know, it seems to me, and I don't know, I wanted to dialogue with you about this, but do you feel like in jujitsu and in the jujitsu community that you're meeting more and more people who are, choosing sobriety? What is that like? I know you're way plugged in with the jujitsu community out in Kansas City, but are
Yeah.
are you seeing that kind of take on? I feel like I am, and I'm relatively new. I've been in
I
it
feel
for
like
two
it's
and a half years,
situation.
but
I feel like you get one or the other. I feel like you get one extreme or the other with the jujitsu guys. It's like it's like you got this guy who's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be competitive and I'm gonna freaking clean up my whole life and do better."
yeah.
And then you got this guy that's like, "I'm gonna freaking roll high every day." Like I think that's what you get out of it. But I do see it, man.
Yeah.
And even there, like I have this weird cultural thing, and this happened. One of our training partners, he was training with us for a couple of years. Man, hopefully I don't get emotional here. But he passed away while he was on vacation. His wife still trains with us, and one of the things that I've done since then is like, and people thought it was weird at first, and now it's just become so normal. Everyone knows I'm going to do it. Is like, I tell all the guys I love them before they leave or before I leave. Like, I'm like, hey man, I love you. I love you. I'll give them hugs. And they all, at first, man, it was such a weird deal to these like, these jacked alpha males, right? And they're like, but now like they just know because like, man, you never know when it's the last time. You never know when it's the last time you're going to be able to see somebody. Uh, you don't life is way too short, and I didn't know the guy, but I see a lot of our teammates, so we're part of TAC Team as our bigger organization. A lot of our teammates out in St. Louis, I saw recently one of our black belts passed away out there. And I see these guys just sharing like how great of a guy this guy was, and you just don't know like the last time you're gonna slap bump with somebody and throw down. So yeah, so I know that went off course of people searching for sobriety that do jujitsu, but like
No,
whatever I
you're
can
going in the
do
right
to be
direction.
yeah, whatever I could do to be a positive influence, somebody that somebody can talk to in the gym, or anywhere in life, honestly. But the gym is where I like to spend my time. Is just a huge deal for me. And then that even carries over into like I love coaching the kids class. I love helping coach my kids wrestling team. I love that stuff. Because like I can be a positive influence because to be honest, like when I was a kid, I didn't have a whole lot of positive adult influence in my life. So every environment you can be in to encourage somebody or impact their life in a positive manner is just a plus for me.
Absolutely, man. I, I'm with you on the. You never know when you're going to see somebody, man. I, it almost feels like it feels weird because since I started jujitsu, I've lost more people in the last 2.5 years. Um, and you never know when you're going to see those guys. I'm one of those. One of those. I'm like you in the fact that I tell folks I love them before I go. I say I love you guys, and there's still people who won't say it back, and I don't need them to say it back. Um, and because you really do. You just never know, man. You know, we think we're going to see people. I think we assume, but when you start losing people, man, like it really helps clarify that this moment I have with them right now, this conversation I have with them or my neighbor who just passed, like the last time I talked to him was over a year ago. And I didn't think that was going to be my last conversation with him, but it slips on us, man. Like the next thing you know, they're gone. And um, I feel like in jujitsu too, something that I've started to become cognizant of is we don't know how close some of these guys are to quitting jujitsu because of how
Yeah.
hard it is, you know?
Yeah.
And we know too, like if you quit jujitsu, you start quitting other things. There's other things that you start
Yeah.
giving up on too, right? And it's just like when we were kids, like the wrestling coaches, my football coaches, all this are like, you quit doing this now, you'll quit more things, you know? And
Yeah.
so we want to hang on to the community that we have in these academies and these gyms. And with the kids too, because kids will move, man. And then my kids get sad. And it's like,
Sure.
taking captive every moment that you have with these people
Yeah.
is necessary,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Do you have another thought?
No, I didn't have nothing. Nope.
So I think we've covered a lot of really good ground here, man. I wanted to give you the opportunity. Um, was there anything that we didn't cover during this conversation, or maybe a word of encouragement that you want to give to people in kind of signing off our episode today?
I would say, man, like just take a look at your life, and if it's not where you want it to be in any area, find people that are going to push you to that, whether it's getting sober, getting in a better career, getting around better associations. Find people that are going to push you in the right direction. Find a tribe, find a purpose. That's huge. Like, find a reason why you want to do better. That's bigger than yourself, because if everything's about yourself, it's never going to be enough, you know? So find a purpose and just really go after it, man. Like, we have a short period of time on this earth. So why not, live the best that you can live and help other people to realize that they can also have a better life as well, impact people in a positive manner. That's really the biggest thing in my life is I want people to know that there is better out there for you. You just have to make the decisions and create the habits to go after it.
Absolutely, man. So we're going to drop some of your socials in the show notes here. And then obviously we're going to be posting these reels on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. But how can people best get in touch with you now? What method of contact do you prefer people reaching out to you?
Yeah, my personal Facebook, it's open. It's a public page, so anyone can reach out to me there, or on the Instagram page, the Sober Gang Instagram page. That's a good place to reach out as well.
All right, Chop. I appreciate you, man. I love you, brother. I'm so glad that you came on to tell your story today, brother.
Yes, sir. Love you, bro. Thank you for having me on, man.